Hi there, and welcome to Enterprise AI Defenders, a show that highlights how enterprise security leaders are using innovative technologies to stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. In each episode, Fortune 500 CISOs share how AI has changed the threat landscape, real-world examples of modern attacks, and the role AI will play in the future of cybersecurity. I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI.
Today on the show, we're bringing you a conversation with Matt Bunch, VP and Global Chief Information Security Officer at Tyson Foods. Tyson is a $54 billion multinational protein company that supplies roughly 23% of all protein consumed in the United States, with over 11,000 independent farmers in their supply chain alone. A few things stuck with me from this conversation. First, Tyson overhauled their SOC platform this past year, migrating to next-generation AI-enabled SIEM that combines threat intelligence, vulnerability data, and live alerts into a daily digest. The result? Significantly faster mean time to detection and response, with analysts arriving at alerts with far more context than before. Second, Matt's take on AI-specific threats like prompt injection is blunt. It's just a data validation problem, and configuration issues in AI tools are problems security has managed for years. His challenge to his team is to honestly assess whether these are net new risks or risks the industry has quietly been accepting all along. And finally, Matt sees security operations becoming significantly more autonomous in the next few years, but says that this future requires governance guardrails that don't yet exist. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Maybe to kick us off, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and kind of what you've been doing at Tyson for the last 20, 30 years?
Well, thanks, Evan. It's a pleasure to be on with you today. Matt Bunch, Global CISO here at Tyson Foods. I've been at Tyson for almost 29 years now. I started off as an intern. So had the great opportunity to join the organization as an intern, been able to work through a lot of different infrastructure teams throughout my journey here, as well as leading integration efforts as we've merged, acquired, divested of companies over the years. Tyson has grown by that kind of growth into what we are today, which is a multinational $54 billion protein company.
Matt, it's got to be very challenging defending an organization of the size and scale of Tyson's. What's probably the hardest part about running security for such a large, dynamic organization like yours?
If you really think about, the size and scale and scope of the operations that we run, one of the most challenging things that we can continue to do or think about as we defend the organization is just the depth of operations and the number of points where our supply chain is successful or could fail. So one, just the diversity of business processes and operations that we need to manage across, not just poultry, but beef, pork, prepared foods, all are very different business units and how they manage their operations. And if you think about the kind of equipment that they need and the team members that we have to support, there are just a number of different factors. So all of those iterations really requires us to think simply about how we manage our operations. And so I'm an engineer by trade. And so keep it simple is really one of those core practices. And so we try to approach that every day and how we as technology and cybersecurity professionals approach supporting our business.
Hoping maybe you can kind of share a little bit about just like, it's a bit of like the scale of your guys' operations, right? You guys are at 50 plus billion in revenue, which is, incredible. But like when you guys get hacked, isn't just like a password reset, right? There's kind of there's real risk, right? And the impact of you guys running such a great cybersecurity program is more than just protecting the company. It's by protecting a lot of the consumers and the entire kind of supply chain, both up and down. Can you share a little bit about kind of like what's at stake, right? Why does it matter so much?
What is at stake for us is, again, going back to that supply chain example, is that we are here to help sustain things that grow. And when they grow, they have a life cycle. And if we do not make sure that our operations are working effectively at the right time, then we're not going to achieve the kind of goals that we need to at the end of the day. And so when we think of partnering with others, we have to we have to really think about that entire supply chain and how each component works. If we think about our independent farmers, just on the poultry side, over 11,000 independent farmers help us be successful. We want them to be successful. They're dependent upon us, we're dependent upon them. Over 44,000 houses are involved in that across just the United States. So if you think of all the fuel that those locations use, if you think about all the feed and ingredients, all the corn, the soybeans, all the agriculture that is used in those processes, think about all of the the protein producers, the beef farmers that are really surviving on how well their product moves to market. If you think about that scale, we are really impacting thousands upon thousands of lives. But then on the other side of that, if you think about our what we do on a daily basis, we supply protein to almost 23% of the United States, and so that's a core component of everybody's meal or dinner. And so making sure that we're doing it the right way, at the right quality, at the right cost structure, and at the right level of sustainability can really help us benefit everyone. So there's a huge scale involved in what we do.
Maybe you could tell us or share some examples of how AI has changed your team's ability to triage and detect threats, and maybe how your organization has kind of evolved with the new technology as well.
We're using the mantra all in on AI. And when we say all in, it is everyone is all in on AI. So doesn't matter what role you play in the organization, whether you're a developer on our team, you're an incident responder, you're part of our managed services solutions, you are responsible for thinking about those activities that you do on a daily basis and where can AI come in and assist you. If I think about looking at our threat landscape, plenty of organizations have these daily threat reports or, week over weekend reports, what's happening, what's going on in the world. What if we can take all of this intelligence that's coming in, marry that up with our vulnerabilities, marry that up with the actual alerts that we're seeing within a time period, and put that into a very consumable format that delivers that to us so that we can get actionable insights every single day. That takes a lot of work to get your data in the right spot. And so we have really positioned ourselves from our SOC technologies to the next generation of AI enabled SIEM platforms. The SOC platform, we did a massive change this past year. And so what we're seeing is just much faster mean time to detection, mean time to response. And so our teams are able to get to alerts much more quickly, with much more insight to to work on them as quickly as possible. And then we can pass that intelligence back to our business teams, our technology teams, in case they need to take some action.
Are the things that kind of you guys are doing with AI today, that again, if you told your team 10 years ago, hey, we're going to be doing this and here's how your job's going to be shifting, it would have felt like science fiction, but it feels very real today.
It is very real today. And the real big change for me and my role and where I started was I was one of the only developers in an infrastructure organization. And so I built solutions. I wrote code and as well as general systems administration across a number of infrastructure domains. And so what if I didn't have to worry about writing the code? What if I could trust the code more reliably and I could really think about solutioning? And so back 20 years ago, we didn't have monitoring systems. We didn't have some of these capabilities in place. And so we had to write our own. Well, we're back now to a point where we can not really worry about the code as much, and we can go back and be solution providers and builders again, and really think about how to take our organizations to that next level of automation. So I think that's the real fundamental change for me and for our team, just the ability to analyze data sets and problems in a way that we had never done that before. Can I take incident data from our ITSM system and just put it into an AI model and say, hey, what are the anomalies? let's just see what it will give us at the end of the day. And then we can start applying some additional insights. So thinking about problem management and other things, maybe there's some problems that have been underlying everything that we've been doing for a while, but it's never really surfaced so that we can actually find a root cause. So I think it's going to open up a lot of avenues for us to work on a root cause and find challenges that we've never seen before.
What you describe is not just like a technology shift, right? It's also a bit of a cultural shift in terms of like how the IT and security team kind of show up and what they're capable of doing. It sounds like you've been leading from the front to kind of demonstrate what's possible. Do you have any kind of pro tips for maybe some of your peers out there about how do you kind of really educate or kind of like make people more aware about like the things they're able to do in this new AI world that maybe were outside of their original job responsibilities?
Yeah, I would say step into an uncomfortable area. That's one of the biggest areas of growth that we can all have is try something new. And so if you're not comfortable with these AI solutions giving you an answer, test it out, trial it, make sure that you're pressure testing it the right way. Our own human insights take us a long way. And so we're still going to have that human in the loop, making decisions, understanding if the answers AI systems are giving us are really the right thing. But if we're not willing to take that chance, then you're already stopping yourself. If you're not willing to give the business a chance, you're preventing the business from maybe making a leap forward in some areas. And so get your hands dirty, go and run the tools, get your own personal licenses if you need to, go back to the playground and let's play a little bit more.
I like that. That's guys, great advice.
So along those same lines, are there have you run into situations with your team on maybe some of your team that's also been there a while or not as maybe AI forward? How do you kind of get them to accept the new reality of AI solutions, and how do you kind of help your team along that journey? Or do you have certain people that you've kind of pulled out as champions, or kind of what's been your experience with getting everybody in your organization to that same level of experimentation that you described?
We know that our own time is challenged. So if there's an advantage that we can take advantage of a tool, AI is a tool, let's do it and let's get the tools in front of our team members' hands. Now, for those who are scared, they're really worried about what is to come, there's an org change effort. And so you as a leader have to step out as an example and demonstrate how it's helping you, how it's helping you be more productive, how it's helping you be a better leader so that you can focus more on them, spending time walking around, talking to people, understanding their concerns, showing that empathy and listening to them if they do have those concerns. It's a multi-phase approach where you have to be the example. You have to demonstrate that it is really helping you, demonstrate that you're on board with it, and then providing a safe path for them to try, to make mistakes, and then ultimately, if they have successes, celebrate those successes. And so within my team, I'm really happy that we have a number of AI champions who are leading from that front. And, we want people to step up and be leaders within the organization and not just wait for me, not just wait for my leadership team. And so our team has got some really great leaders that are trying AI in a number of different situations. And it may not be AI, it may just be some advanced analytics, some automation, but they're challenging the status quo. And I want them to be the example at the end of the day, because again, they're closest to the work. They're going to be able to show us where the true value is.
Are there like new threat vectors that you kind of worry about today, or is there maybe some operating assumptions that kind of as a cybersecurity community have kind of assumed to be true? They're maybe less valid in kind of the AI era. And like, what are maybe some things you're worried about today that were not really quite on the radar even a year or two ago?
As AI continues to develop in our understanding of how it can be used in an evil way, as you mentioned, Yes, there are going to be novel approaches on how threat actors can take advantage of the tools, whether that be prompt injection or any other kind of a technique. There will be unique things that we have to address and unique tools that we're going to have to look at implementing, capabilities that we have to implement. And so, as long as we stay open minded and really start pushing the boundaries of what is expected and what's not expected, I think that we'll continue to find those novel approaches. But if you really look at the challenges, what's a prompt injection issue? It's a data validation issue. That's really all it is. We've had data validation issues for years on applications. And if you think about configuration of AI tools, we've had configuration issues in all of these tools for years. If you think about data issues, you've got access control issues. Again, we've had these things for years. And so, in a lot of instances, these are not net new risks that businesses have to face. But as we have matured our capabilities and people have built their security organizations, we've been working on each one of those domains separately or individually to mature them. We now have to think about it with that AI lens. And so you will have new metrics to think about. You will have new threat vectors to think about, new capabilities. But going back to the originals, we've had these issues from day one in all kinds of other areas. And so I've challenged my team to really focus on, are these net new risks or are these just risks that we've been accepting for a long time and nobody's really stepped up to the plate to say this is acceptable or this is not. So really rethinking what our risk profile looks like and how comfortable can we really get, if it doesn't hit certain flags, needing a human in the loop, hitting a regulatory requirement, hitting a PII, PHI, PCI type requirement. How much do we really care? We do care, but let's make sure that we're judging the risk appropriately.
So one area, it's been all over the news lately too, with the newer models finding, never before found vulnerabilities and things like that. Where do you feel that you might have to adjust how you do things at Tyson's, given that AI in the hands of bad guys is making things like social engineering more effective, is finding vulnerabilities faster. It's really just changing the whole speed and pace of how fast the attacker can move. Is it changing how you approach things at Tyson's a little bit different?
It is. We're really thinking about the ways that we work, and how does the service desk and our HR teams, how do they engage with our customers, our team members, when they call in? How are we thinking about identity verification, and should we employ some new mechanisms now that we didn't before? How do we think about vulnerabilities, and our speed to remediation? What do we need to put in place? Um, Many organizations have a lot of vulnerabilities. They're drowning in vulnerabilities and really lack the ability to prioritize them on the exploitability, and so there are new ways of thinking about vulnerabilities, how you're doing your network segmentation, how you're putting in these mitigating controls that, quite honestly, we're all going to have to accelerate. So the vulnerabilities are still there. The new models are going to potentially find some novel ways of chaining these vulnerabilities together that traditional humans haven't been able to do yet. They're going to find net new vulnerabilities that we've never seen, but it's how we respond to it, no differently than in previous past of incident response and business continuity. How do we now think about vulnerability management, patch management in that same vein, where again we focus on the highest level risks, we understand what our security posture is today better than we ever have before, and think about asset management, think about configuration management, those core fundamental principles that we just need to go back and revisit and make sure that those processes are solid. Those are the areas that make and break security organizations. And too often times, technology teams, IT teams, and the business forget about the basics. We've got to go back to the basics.
Matt, when I was doing some preparation for this this show, I think I read something online you talking about different frameworks for like safe AI adoption. And so I was kind of curious for you, like when you think about, say a team member, or someone on your team's coming to you with kind of some new ideas for where maybe AI can be used inside of kind of the security program, where maybe like the first questions you would kind of ask, right, to kind of figure out, kind of where to invest. I think one of the challenges, like we have at our company, is that like AI lets you do everything, and when you can do everything for a lot cheaper, right, you kind of want to do everything, especially when you love building stuff. And so, how do you kind of figure out where to prioritize? How do you figure out kind of where the risks are?
I think the challenge for technology and security leaders is to, we're very happy when we see net new capabilities and we want to test things. And being an engineer, I want to get down in dirty and really try to understand what they're trying to do. But I've got to remove myself from that a little bit and think about what's the business objective. What is the value of doing this activity? Is it a manual process today? If so, how much time is being spent doing that activity? How much time can we recover to if we want to think about that? What kind of data is involved? Is this going to be something that we can roll out very easily, or are we going to have to go create data for this process in order to get better or improve the data quality before we can make progress? So what we turn everything back into is a business discussion. We are in the business of running our business. So if we don't think about it from a business user's perspective, even when we're running our own operations, then we're missing the whole point. We can be technologists all day long. We can go home, we can have our labs, we can do all this. But when we get into our workplace, we can bring those learnings in and apply it to real business lessons. So, what are those business challenges that our team is having? Are we not hitting an SLA or a KPI the right way? How can we accelerate so that we are hitting those the right way? What is that business value? That's really where I drive our team to think about those opportunities, and that it's been very helpful so far in helping us prioritize what is the most important thing we can focus on.
What's something that you've seen on the risk landscape at Tyson's that you can only see because you've watched it evolve?
I think one of the biggest changes that we've really come to appreciate is the overall complexity of supply chain and the complete dependence of our organization and other organizations on other suppliers, the utilities, core critical infrastructure. And so as we have scaled, the reliance that we all have on each other. And so if you think of that from a community standpoint, that means we all need to be in it together. And so it's not about us just going, and solving our mission and focusing on our business, but what can we be doing to help raise the bar for other, in our instance, protein providers, ingredient suppliers, others that are supplying our supply chain, outside cold storages, transportation companies. What can we do to help influence as well as partner with them to collectively raise everybody's security posture? And so that scale, that size around supply chain and how dependent we are on each other, that's been one of the biggest lessons for me.
You've spoken publicly about the basics every company should get right before adopting AI and just, the core fundamentals like asset visibility, identity, data governance. Where do you think most enterprises get it wrong with just basic hygiene?
I think that we forget that we all need to be partners together instead of just in these siloed areas. I've heard many times security organizations are the organization of no. They need to be the organization of yes. And so they need to walk beside infrastructure teams, application teams, data teams, the business teams in order to find solutions. Are there red lines that we need to say no? There are. There are absolutely things that we need to put in place. There are guardrails. But if we have an avenue to find a yes and put those guardrails in place, we need to be pursuing that yes. And so, yes, our organization is no differently where really focusing on those partnerships, breaking down those silos, again, basic fundamental relationships. And so if you can understand why those silos even exist, whether it be a political reason, somebody's ego, somebody's greed, what those human elements that we all have to fight against, and really think about showing how you can partner as a security organization, you will start to achieve those benefits the right way.
What are some of the skills you look for in your team that are kind of rising in value, right? But presumably, like some knowledge is going down, but things like agency and curiosity are going up. Like, love to hear how you think about what the future is going to look like and how that applies to kind of shaping and architecting the team going forward.
What I really look for in a team member are some of those basic characteristics. I really like curiosity, somebody who's willing to ask why and continue asking why until they can really come to a full understanding. I've got a team member who works for us right now, and she is in a non-technical role, but she's always asking why, and she's pushing us every day to be better at our processes, being able to explain things. And so I really appreciate that from her, and pushing me to grow in how I can even better explain things to our business as well as our other teams. And so, where I think that we're going to be in a year, 18 months, 2 years from a security operations standpoint is that we're going to come to a place where we are fully trusting some of these tools to be more autonomous than what they are today. Uh, but we're going to have to back that up with good governance. We're going to have to put some guardrails in place that do not exist today to understand what are the models doing, what are the agents doing, are they really doing what we ask them to do, or are they trying to get outside of their self and do something else? So I think we all have a lot of learning to do about what agents can do. And as we look to put some of these into production, we're going to have to think about trusting them to some extent, but trust and you've got if you trust, you've got to verify. And so we've got to still verify and run that governance at a layer that is not obtrusive. It is has the right observability, right scalability in place so that we can focus on the next cool thing.
Is there kind of a use case or a product category where you're like, it hasn't really been solved by like kind of conventional software? But I think if, AI, given some time and to be kind of applied AI usage, this use case could be totally crushed with AI. But anything in that category?
I really think that giving given the amount of data that we as technologists have, coming to a point where we can fully understand what is happening in our environment at any one time. That takes a lot of structure, a lot of planning today. I think that is where one area that's really going to help us in the future. The second is going back to that development methodology where what if we didn't have to code anymore and spend our time doing that? What else could we be doing?
For our last kind of like 5-10 minutes here, we like to do kind of a lightning round at the end where we basically give you some short questions and try to get your like one tweet response. And your kind of like unfair questions are like impossible to answer in one tweet. So, please forgive me and Mike, afterwards. But Mike, do you want to kick it off for us?
Sure. So, what advice do you have for a security leader who's stepping into their very first CISO job? Something they might either overestimate or underestimate about the job?
What I like to encourage them to do is get out of their comfort zone, go try something new. That will allow them to grow. I think that'll allow them to challenge their own paradigms and their own thought processes. So go try something new, try something different that they've never tried before. But then on the other side of that, go do the things you know are successful. Go reinforce those things. So continue to get better at your strengths every single day and focus on those strengths and make sure that you're still driving those strengths in what you're trying to deliver.
You seem to be pretty up to date with some of kind of the latest technology, some of the latest trends. What would be your advice to a CISO out there about how they can kind of make sure they're staying close to the frontier, especially around kind of AI when things are changing every week or two?
The only thing that we can all do, which is continue to learn, go read, go read, go read, sign up for Reddit, listen to podcasts, go and discover something. If you don't understand what quantum is, actually go and open up the engineering documents behind it. When a new novel model comes out, or a frontier model comes out, go spend some time playing and getting your hands dirty. We're going to have to go back to education. That's the only way to stay on top of things, to continuously grow. Otherwise, you're going to be moving backwards every single day.
What's a book that you've read that's had a big impact on you and why? And it doesn't have to be cyber or even work related.
I read a book, and it's been years, but it was called The Art of Negotiating. And so that book really taught me that there's never anything that's finite in either direction. And so you need to look for the positives in every single negotiation, every single relationship. And so if you can find commonality, then you're going to find a successful outcome. So everybody is seeking an answer when you're working on a software agreement or a contract, or trying to work through org change within an organization. So that art of negotiating is really critical.
What do you think is going to be true about the future of AI and cybersecurity that most people would consider science fiction today?
That AI is just the next thing. It's just the next thing. We will have more things coming. It is the next tool. It's the next set of techniques. And so what we're going to continue to see with it is that we're going to go back and revisit problems that we've already seen. And so we continue to think that AI is this net new thing. And while it is, and there are definite technology benefits, and it is a revolutionary leap forward in a lot of areas, we're still just doing the same thing, but faster.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Looking forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Mike, for the time. Great to talk to you.
That was Matt Bunch, VP and Global Chief Information Security Officer at Tyson Foods.
I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI. Thanks for listening to Enterprise AI Defenders. Please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Learn more about how AI is transforming cybersecurity at enterprisesoftware.blog.
This show is produced by Abnormal Studios. See you next time.